Welcome to a sparkling new podcast from Mike Parry and Mike Graham. We're the two Mikes.
Actually, it sounds even better when you do it Dullsville, because when you try to be happy and excited and energetic, you sound pathetic.
Thanks.
Look at the light! Life has hit me in many different forms. I've swatted,
you're still bearing the scars.
I've swatted all those problems away.
Uh-huh.
I am still, like a galleon, in full sail on that ocean. I don't like being portrayed as an idiot.
Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, very good morning, Mike. Good to be here. I do take exception to some of these, side issues that you just bring into your
Side
intro.
issues?
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Not all sorts of daft, references to my heart, my head and all
The
that.
heart took over the head.
Yeah, but having said that, I've seen a story in tomorrow morning's newspapers. It's
Yeah.
going to shock you.
Is it?
The world's first head transplant is just 2 years away.
Head transplant.
Head transplant.
Do me a favour.
2 years away.
No, it can't be done.
Yeah, 2 years away. The only drawback is it's going to be rather selective because it's going to cost £7.5 million.
Right.
£7.5 million for a new head. I wonder what my head would be worth.
Yeah, probably about 7.5p.
That's a bit harsh.
Slightly more than one of your books.
That's a bit harsh, but look, it says here, Italian surgeon Sergio Canavero wants to take the head from someone with an incurable illness and graft it onto a healthy body. He says the first operation can be done in just 2 years' time. New lease of life for whoever gets the new head.
Yeah,
but I mean,
so he picks up a £7.5 million, and when it goes all horribly wrong, he just goes, "Oh, sorry about that."
I mean, that's two people being joined together. It's the brain of one person with the body of another.
Yeah.
Which one dominates? Does the brain dominate over the heart or the heart? Because you just talked about heart and head.
Yeah.
That is literally a heart and head situation.
Well, that's what Arsene Wenger was talking about. I didn't quite know what he meant, actually, because normally if you say the heart takes over the head, it means your head is basically gone and you forget what you're supposed to be doing.
Imagine if you got Sven Holland Eriksson's head and all of a sudden, your heart was suddenly having to adapt to that. That would be something, wouldn't it? But look, we shouldn't be talking about these irrelevancies. I mean, the situation at the Old Emirates, which I called the Etihad, actually.
Yes, I saw that.
In an
Well, that
earlier
was
tweet tonight.
Slip of the tongue.
Slip of the tongue.
Although it was on Twitter.
Slip of the finger, all that kind of
You
stuff.
don't get away with anything on Twitter, do you, if you make a mistake?
You don't get away with anything. A couple of people also accused me of doing that deliberately to draw attention to my tweet.
Really?
But I didn't. I don't like being portrayed as an idiot.
No.
And
it happens a lot as well, doesn't it?
I once called Roberto Martinez Roberto Mancini.
Yes, I remember that.
These things happen, I'm afraid, but it's just because I've got so many ideas in my head.
Did you also not say that Everton were playing a team they weren't playing one week as well?
I did, actually, yeah, I did. But that's because I've got so many ideas in my head that sometimes they come out of the wrong exit, if you see what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. And I tend to be the kind of the filter for you, because I'm here to help you try and get those great ideas out into the wide open spaces without you being ridiculed for being a complete idiot.
Absolutely. Now, we had young Piers Morgan on the show earlier in the week.
We did. I've been trying to get hold of him, actually, but I think he's too wound up to come on.
I don't blame him. Got a lot of great response from the audience, said he talked a lot of sense and all that. And I have to admit that all last summer... Yeah, but you were disagreeing
with him, weren't you?
Well, on some issues it was. And all last summer I had a bit of a sort of, verbal punch-up with Piers over Twitter. I accused him of bullying Arsene Wenger, and saying he was going in too hard. He wasn't grateful for the good things that the man had done to the club. But it's now beyond the pale.
Well, it is, isn't it?
It's gone beyond the pale because
it's the same conversation every single year.
Yeah, and also, why did Theo Walcott not come on till so late in the game when he changed the whole complexion of Arsenal? It's no good to say, well, he's late back from injury and you've got to ease him in gently. You shouldn't be able to do. You shouldn't be worried about doing that. If you're in desperate need, like Arsenal are, and Theo's their best player, which he looked like he was when he came on last night, he should have been on from the start, in my view.
Yeah, well, possibly so. Oxford, I mean, the other ridiculous thing is, they get back to 2-1, which wouldn't be so bad against Monaco, and then in the final minute of the game, they throw it away. Absolutely incredible.
Do you know what? Berbatov is an amazing man.
Yeah.
He's renowned for his very laid-back style and his rather languid approach to the game.
Which you always accuse me of having.
Yeah, indeed I do. But you don't have half the talent that Berbatov's got and probably only 1/100th of the earning power.
Probably so.
I don't have the respect for you I have for Berbatov,
really?
Who's best at his job in the world in many ways.
Really? So Berbatov's now the greatest player in the world?
No, at at the pace he plays he is,
right.
I'd call him, if you could classify footballers as you classify bowlers, in cricket, I'd classify him as a slow-paced centre-forward, right?
Would you? Yeah.
And as a slow-paced centre-forward, he's one of the best in the world. Now, what I'm saying to you
is... He's still quicker than Arsenal.
Well, this is the point I'm going to make. This is the point I'm about to make.
Go on.
You're reading my mind here.
I can.
I thought he took the ball half a pace too far before he struck his goal, and I was convinced that one of 3 Arsenal defenders were going to get a foot in the way to block that shot.
Yeah.
But he timed it absolutely perfectly, didn't he?
He did.
Absolutely perfect timing. Sort of timing you wouldn't see in anybody except a man who has utter and absolute confidence in himself.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't disregard people who you don't think move as quickly as you do, or who you don't think appear to move as quickly as you do, because you might get caught out one of these days.
No, I won't get caught out. I move with great vigour because I believe that you've got places to go in life, and you shouldn't.
But you haven't got anywhere to go.
I've got everywhere to go, and you shouldn't hang around waiting to get there. Another issue for you, and again, because I'm a huge observer of tomorrow morning's newspapers, we have the advantage to see them at 2:00 in the morning
this
here.
Morning's newspaper.
There's a story tomorrow, Mike, saying
it's today already.
Today you're going to have a stroke. You're going to have a stroke.
Well, I am.
Too much sleep could kill
prediction?
You. More than 8 hours a night can double the risk of a stroke.
I don't sleep at night.
You spend all day in bed.
No, I don't.
You spend all day in bed.
Absolute rubbish.
You work all night and you sleep all day.
Not true.
He works all night, he sleeps all day, he goes to the lavatory. I wish I'd been
That's the lumberjack song.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, there have been some people actually tweeting, please don't let Mike Parry sing anymore. Please do not let him sing anymore.
Okay.
He's singing far too much. Well, I mean, I don't know why have you installed some kind of, camera, CCTV camera, secretly spying on me or something? You have no idea what I do during the day.
No, it's obvious from following your social media output and all that kind of stuff. There are huge tracks of the day when you're simply not available, and you're either...
Has it ever occurred to you that I don't tweet in order to make you be lulled into a false sense of insecurity?
No, you're either
Because there was a time when, if ever I tweeted anything after waking up, the next thing that would happen is you would call me.
No,
so
not at all.
Every time I tweet, because you've got nothing better to do, because you're watching exactly when I tweet, you would then ring me.
No, you're either...
So now what I do is I don't tweet in order to make you think that I'm not around.
No, you're either sort of...
You've seen the time, by the way.
Don't worry about the time.
No, I worry about the time.
You're either flat out in your pit, like a sort of a big sow of a pig, enjoying your sleep for endless hours.
Sleep's very important.
Or you're in some licensed establishment somewhere.
Sleep is very important.
Filling yourself full of champagne, booze, and eating foreign foods.
Foreign foods?
Goodness
me.
Awful. By the way, I'm going to tell you a story about a chain.
Well, you can't tell me any more stories because you have to look into the light.
You put too much store on the weather. That's your problem.
You have to look into the light.
I'm not the weather, the time.
Oh, right. Very good. Thank you very much indeed. This is why you need to sleep, because your brain's gone doolally. We are the two mics. More coming up. Any of those noises?
Well, once again, I tried to impart some knowledge into your head about research that's taken place which illustrates that gibbons can have conversations between each other and that scientists have worked out what the sounds are. I tried to replicate those sounds to you last night, and you go and put it in the middle of a silly song from 30 years ago to try and once again make me look shallow.
It's nothing to do with me.
Trying to make me look shallow.
And a very talented production team.
And the talented production team should go and do some talented producing rather than, trying to take the mickey. Nobody quite appreciate the depth of research that I get engaged in order to make this show sing. You know what I mean?
I see. Yeah. Well, according to many people who've been listening to your ramblings of a few moments ago, Randall says no head would want to go on Porky's body.
Oh, is that right?
Which is an interesting one.
I tell you what, there'd be heads falling off shelves, mate, if I walked in there and needed a transplant. I'm telling you.
Why would anybody want your body? Your heart only works at a third of the rate of everybody else's.
Well,
your body is entirely disposable.
Yes, but it's had a lot of...
It's not even worth giving it to science.
It's had a lot of experience of life. Actually, that's absolutely true. It's not worth giving to science, my body. In fact, it's a bit of an empty shell. It's a wreck. It won't be worth much when I've shuffled off this mortal coil. But don't tell anybody that until the day of judgment comes.
No, here's one from William who says Porky's brain would be studied like Einstein for the advancement of science. I think he's being slightly ironic there.
No, I think he's right. I see things other people don't.
Yeah.
I see angles. I see where things are coming from. Other people can't. By the way, can I just say that when it comes round to PorkyVision on the show tonight, what time is that going to be?
That's at 3:30.
OK, I am giving it.
I've got to make a final plea.
I've
got to make a final
plea. The end of Broadchurch.
No, you mustn't. Now,
I'm going
lots of people are capable of doing TV reviews in the papers, as they do, and on TV and on radio, without actually giving the ending away. They can describe all sorts of things without actually finally ruining
Imposters,
it for people.
charlatans,
there are people in America. There are people in America
making a living.
No, there are people in America who have begged me to say, look, the new series of Broadchurch. Hang on a second. The new series of Broadchurch doesn't even start until next year. Please do not allow Mr. Parry to give the ending away. In Norway, in Scandinavia, the episode is not going to air for another few weeks.
Well, I'm sorry.
Same in Australia. You know, people are actually begging you not to give it away.
Mike, I operate for the many, not the few.
Really?
I can't be selective and hold things back for those who are asking for a special dispensation when I have millions of people out there who want to know what my view of the ending of Broadchurch is.
People who've seen it know what the ending is.
They want to know my interpretation
I was
of
hoping to see the final episode of it today because I didn't want you to ruin it for me. But I was too busy. I didn't get around to seeing it.
Hard luck. And the other show I'm going to review, because I do like to go, into the nostalgic television of the past, is Steptoe and Son.
Oh, are you?
Saw 2 episodes of that today.
Is that still on?
It's still on, yeah. And by the way, that's not just a television programme. There is a social message behind that which is utterly heartbreaking, okay?
Yeah. Is there?
Well,
don't tell me now.
There's a situation
Save
there.
it for PorkyVision.
I'm going to. There's a situation there which I think, really delves down into the depths of the human soul.
Oh, yeah.
Of the human soul.
Really?
Yeah,
which one of the figures in the show do you have empathy with?
You're going to have to wait till PorkyVision.
All right,
for that,
I'll wait till PorkyVision. I'll tell you what, I'll ask you something else that was out on TV last night. The Brit Awards. Did you see Madonna falling over?
Well, it was amazing. Apparently what happened was, because we've studied the footage there, she had a Velcro strap across her neck.
Right, she was wearing a cape, wasn't she?
Yeah, which connected one side of the cape to the other. She was undoing it and was given a few, whatever time
Wasn't somebody supposed to be taking it off her or something?
No, they were supposed to be whipping it off her, like you made a fool of yourself and whipped that tablecloth off the table
make a fool of myself
in the video and put all the crockery all over the floor.
The difference between you and I
crockery,
is that
glasses, everything smashed.
You think that by doing those kind of ridiculous circus tricks that somehow makes you a cleverer person? No, it doesn't. I don't feel as anything more.
But you failed in that. That was a test. You failed.
I don't care.
I succeeded.
It makes no difference to me.
I was a complete success. You were a complete failure.
It makes no difference to me.
You are a failure, actually. You've got failure written all over your face. You should go and get a head transplant, mate, and then people might think that you're, a half-decent human being.
My head is very valuable.
Now, what I was going to say was... You've
forgotten, haven't you?
No,
not enough sleep.
No, is that they were trying to whip the cape off her in the same way as we whipped those tablecloths off the table, with varying results, obviously. What happened was she hadn't taken the cape off, so she was hurled backwards down the stairs. Yeah. Felt quite sorry for her, but... I think it's a message from the gods that it's time for her to take a lower profile in public.
You think?
Did you see the ridiculous award ceremony in Los Angeles last week?
What, the Oscars?
No, it wasn't the Oscars. The one before that, in which she exposed...
Grammys?
It might have been the Grammys. She exposed her posterior and showed her derriere completely covered in a fishnet stocking type contraption. Arrangement
well,
or whatever.
A pair of fishnet stockings, I think you'd find.
Yeah, with a strap around her buttocks to enhance them and lift them up, to make them seem more rounded.
It was a rather attention-seeking garb, I have to say.
I mean, when you flash your...
She's nearly as old as you, isn't she?
Sorry?
She's nearly as old as you.
She's... I'm just trying to work out how old she is.
She's about 56, I think.
I'm hovering mid-50s and so is she. Let's put it that way, you know what I mean? But, I mean, she was trying
She was much hovering last night.
She was trying to expose her posterior in an attempt to get a picture in the paper.
Yeah.
But why would anybody want a picture of their anus in the paper rather than their face? That's what I don't understand.
It wasn't a picture of that.
Well, it was.
No, it wasn't.
It
was
was
a picture of a backside.
That's what I'm saying.
The same thing.
I'm saying.
It's not the same thing.
Well, anus.
It's not the same thing. I know what you're trying to say. You're wrong.
Well, I'm saying, I mean...
Why are you talking quietly?
Well, because I'm
still going out on national radio.
I know, I'm trying to make sure I don't offend any of our...
But you've already said the word, which is the wrong word.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Backside you object to.
Backside, yes. Anyway, the
point is...
Why
do you object to a backside anyway?
Sorry?
Why do you object to it?
No, I don't. But I mean, in many ways, the idea of showing somebody your backside can be seen as a terrible insult. Show me your... You know what I mean?
Really?
Well, that famous expression, like,
you don't have to say it.
The world's oldest joke, a bloke walks up to somebody else with a cigarette and says, "Oh, hello, mate, you got a match?" And he says,
right.
my face, your Aris. You know what I mean? I mean, it's the oldest joke in the world, you know.
It's not very funny.
No, it's not funny, I agree, but it's a joke from the Second World War. And the idea is that you're insulting that person.
Yeah.
So when you go around flashing your Aris at people, you're in fact insulting them, aren't you?
Have you ever seen the video channel, the pop video channel?
Which one? MTV?
Well, only one of them.
Yeah, of course I.
A few of them. Well, that goes on all day. That's all they do.
Well,
doesn't seem particularly insulting.
That's probably I don't watch them, because if that's all the sort of banal kind of so-called entertainment they give you, it's no wonder people like me
I felt a bit sorry for her.
Don't watch them.
I felt a bit sorry for Madonna. It's never nice to see somebody falling over.
No, I totally
Especially
agree.
Somebody who's getting a bit elderly.
Well, not only that, but a woman as well, to be embarrassed like that and humiliated. And she got straight up and picked up a microphone
what a professional.
and tried to start singing again. Well, I don't think
Absolute
so.
Professional.
I think she should have made a joke of falling over first, because you can't pretend something like that never happened. Listen,
she was in the middle of a song, though.
Yes, she was. Talking about another...
Some people have actually said they'd like to see you on video recreating it.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that.
They have done on Twitter.
No, I'm not doing that.
I'll get you a cape.
No.
Get some fishnet stockings.
Utterly.
Could work well.
Well, now, this is something which I find very odd.
Yeah.
Something I find very odd. Men who dress up as women, I find very odd indeed.
Do you?
I've just seen some more pictures of David Williams.
Oh, yeah.
In some sort... I mean, look, he's an actor and a comic, and he dresses up as a woman for a sketch.
Right.
He was a woman, wasn't he, in that one,
He was a woman in several sketches in Little Britain.
Computer Says No.
Yeah.
That was a woman, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was.
And...
the Women's Institute woman.
Women's Institute and all that kind of stuff. So he does that professionally. That's no problem.
Yeah.
But there are certain people, like there's a very well-known tycoon who goes around dressing up as women in women's clothes and all this kind of stuff. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Doesn't bother me.
Well, if I was asked to go to a fancy dress party and dress up as a woman, I would say no.
Well, you got a beard. It would look a bit weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but no, that's part of the joke, isn't it? It was part of the joke.
Well, what about
the
bloke that won Eurovision?
Well, he was a man.
Well, that's what I said, the bloke that won Eurovision.
Yeah, but
he was dressed as a woman.
Yes, but he was a cross-dresser because he wanted to be a woman.
Yeah.
And therefore he was going through the process of changing from man to woman.
Yeah.
So
he still had a beard, though.
Yes, I know, but I can accept that because there was a purpose to his life.
Okay.
He wasn't dressing up as a woman. He had desires to be a woman and was moving in that direction.
I see.
So
I had no idea he was so progressive.
Oh, yeah, no, that's okay.
Well, that's good.
But talking about stars, and dressing up and all this, another person who's got himself into trouble, and a lovely woman who I like and a friend of mine to a certain extent, Amanda Holden, dressed her daughter up and put on a...
Well, she didn't do it, as it turns out.
Her husband, was it, or something like that?
No, it was her nanny, I think, who's now been fired.
Well, I don't think the nanny has been fired. Apparently, it was the information that went out describing her daughter dressed up as Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts, because, of course, she was a prostitute.
That's right.
And, in fact, the caption that should have gone on it was something like, dressed up
Just meant to be a model, right?
Like Audrey Hepburn or something like that, or whatever, you know what I mean? But, that is a pity, because Amanda apparently is very distressed about this,
apparently so. She's an Everton fan, isn't she?
She's an Everton fan, and in fact, I met her at Wembley when she was dressed literally in a long Everton shirt with a big black belt round the middle, like a dress, and she looked absolutely lovely.
I bet.
Absolutely smashing. But I feel sorry for her, and I think it's terrible that people have a go at you on social networking. The Pretty Woman character wasn't even real. It's not like, it's not like the little
film.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a mythical character. It wasn't a real character, you know what I mean? And I think that's a little bit unfair.
Fair enough.
What about groping politicians? What about Joe Biden?
Hey?
Isn't it amazing?
What?
Joe Biden?
What are you talking about?
Joe Biden goes
Quiet.
around grabbing women.
Look at the time.
Yeah, okay.
Look into the light for a moment.
He's the vice president, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. We are the two mics. More coming up next. What's something you just learned by reading yet another one of your big reports that you get hold of every weekend, in which you apparently said that you could speak like a gibbon.
Well, I didn't say that.
And somebody actually tweeted in, after you did that exhibition of speaking like a gibbon, in which you reeled off a whole series of warnings to various gibbons about lions, leopards, snakes approaching and all of that.
Yeah.
One listener suggested, wouldn't it be a great idea to put that to the music of Who Are You?
Oh, really?
Song by The Who.
I see, yeah.
And it works very well.
So it's a Mickey take. You see, I get fed up of...
It's not a Mickey take, because we're talking in about 10 minutes to Dana Miller-Coburn, who's an animal communications expert who talks to the animals.
Yeah,
we're going to play her a bit of that and see what she thinks.
See, I
see if she understands it.
I research and investigate these scientific reports for the benefit of our millions of listeners.
Yeah.
All you do is take the Mickey, because you basically can't keep up. Your brain isn't good enough, big enough, fast enough
true. I can't keep
up. And all I was doing was, I didn't say I could speak Gibbon.
Yes, you did.
Said I could replicate the sounds that scientists have isolated as being the communicative process between two gibbons. What's wrong with that?
I think we should take to the zoo and see if you can speak to the gibbons for real and speak through the fence to them.
That would be a very interesting exercise, to be honest. Very interesting, because I think I have mastered it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think I've got the drift.
And you do look a bit like a gibbon as well, so they wouldn't be entirely kind of thrown by the fact that you were making a noise like one of them.
Well, you see, again, you're trying to mock and belittle, and I'm not having it.
Yeah.
Talking about mocking and belittling, by the way, I was accused of doing that to Bournemouth.
Were you?
Mm.
Oh, now you're going to gloat, aren't you? Just because they've dropped out a bit in the league.
I'm not going to gloat.
Yeah.
But they lost last night to Nottingham Forest.
They did indeed.
They've lost 4 of their last 5.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever said about them...
And they've dropped out of the automatic places now, haven't they?
They've dropped out of the automatic places, which is the top 2,
yeah.
and I think they're third down in the 4 below that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gloating
But
at all.
they're on the same points as about 3 or 4 other teams, aren't they?
They're only 1 point above going below the 4, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So they're 1 point away from 7th place.
Yeah.
But the only point I made was, and I'm not gloating, I wish Bournemouth the best success. I said,
They've got a bit quiet, actually, Bournemouth fans.
I said for a club the size of Bournemouth,
yeah.
they've had an outstanding season, but they simply wouldn't be able to maintain that sort of level of application until the end of the season.
Yeah.
I thought they would fall off.
But your other argument was that their stadium isn't big enough, really, to be a Premier League side. I mean, how does that work? Don't you have to have a Premier League style stadium in order to be in the Premier League?
You get 1 year's grace.
Okay.
But it's only been tested so far on clubs like Wimbledon, right, who came up from the Southern League right up to the top in like 6 seasons, you see what I mean? And we're given grace. And that was in the days when there was nothing like as many seated stadiums in this country as there are now.
But then they ended up having to play at Selhurst Park, presumably. Was that the reason they had to play there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, no, and in the end they lost the ground. In the end, Plough Lane couldn't be converted into a proper stadium, so they had to go and they had to move, and then obviously the franchise went. But that's a different story. But so
are you saying that you're going to be proved correct then? Is that what you're saying? That's why you're gloating, aren't you?
No. I don't want to be proved correct. I just want the Bournemouth fans to know why.
You also don't want to jump off the pier dressed as a duck.
No, I don't. But that's why I said to the Bournemouth fans, I don't think you'll make it, because I thought this would happen. That's all I'm saying. But I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. If I still have to jump off the pier, then of course I will.
By the way, Bergkamp 10 has pointed out, as you would have heard just before we went into the news there, that you got that oldest joke in the world round the wrong way. Which I didn't even spot at the time. I think Porky meant to say your face, my Harris.
Yes, that's right.
Or maybe he was right the first time.
Yes, sorry?
Well, maybe you were right the first time.
Oh, no, he was right the first time. But no, you know exactly what I'm saying. These boys can keep up with you, see, where you sort of drift apart. What do you think about old Malcolm Rifkind having to give up one of the choicest and juiciest constituencies in this country?
Well, I'm not at all surprised, and I think I feel a bit sorry for him, actually, as well. I don't know whether I'm getting soft at my old age, but, I mean, he's only one of many MPs who make an absolute fortune from all sorts of directorships and all sorts of other jobs that they do outside of the House of Commons.
It's amazing.
And you might say that he's been a decent servant to the public. I mean, most people's view of politicians is about as low now as you can ever imagine it could get.
And with good cause as well.
And with good cause. I mean, you, of course, will jump on the populist bandwagon and say that all MPs are worthless, shifty characters who just make a load of money for the public purse. Which is not actually true.
They're not public servants, that's
for
sure.
They are.
And
some of them actually have done some very good things. So I wouldn't put them all in the same basket. But, I mean, he is by far and away not the only one who would offer to do jobs for money, because there's a whole host of front bench MPs from both sides who've got directorships in this, directorships in that. The thing that gets me the most is when you get somebody like, say, an outgoing Secretary of State for Health who ends up on the board of some, drug company, or who ends up on the board of some, hospital.
That's done £7 billion worth of business with the government while that bloke's in charge.
And none of that seems to ever stop. And last night, in fact, the MPs voted down the possibility of MPs being banned from having second jobs and directorships and all that.
But the whole thing makes me laugh. The idea that Malcolm Rifkind, who in himself is a millionaire anyway, says, I only get paid £67,000 for the job. Are you mad? Do you know what that job's worth? That job is worth £250,000 a year in anybody's money.
Yeah, because he hasn't put in the expenses yet, has he?
No, you get massive expenses. You get a free second house. Yeah. Because the taxpayer buys you a free second house. That is a racket, because all these MPs go around what they call flipping the houses.
Right. Oh, well, they're supposed to have stopped all that now, aren't they?
Well, they're supposed to have. I mean, I saw Jackie Smith, the former Home Secretary, being a paper reviewer on a TV channel tonight.
She does that on a regular basis.
Regular basis. Is that with Sky, is it?
Sky, yeah.
I think it is. I mean,
she's no longer an MP, is she?
No, of course she's not an MP, because she was found out. I mean, she was the Home Secretary of Great Britain. Yeah. And the Home Secretary of Great Britain used to control a country that covered 1/3 of the earth, the British Empire. Right. And she was in such a position of grubby money-making mode that she claimed...
She even bought a barbecue on a public purse, didn't she?
Her husband applied for recompense for some pornographic films.
He did indeed.
On the public bill. But what I'm saying is, somebody got onto the idea that, funny enough, every night at about 7 o'clock, this cavalcade of cars turns up to this little terraced house in South London somewhere. Might have been North London, I'm not sure.
It was South London, yeah.
South London.
Her sister's place.
Exactly, her sister's little terraced house, and she had the back bedroom.
Yeah.
She was claiming this as a second home.
Yeah, right.
And giving her sister 50 quid a week for sleeping in a single bed in the back room. Yeah. I mean, talk about grubby money
she was claiming the main home as the second home.
Exactly,
that was the point.
Exactly.
So that she could fill it with all sorts of stuff.
That's right, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely
but I mean, wouldn't you think if they're claiming money for a second home, might actually buy one? But anyway, that's by the by. The point is that they're all like this. Now, I was going to tell
you
about...
Have you not thought of standing as the new Tory MP for Kensington?
No, I wouldn't want to be an MP.
Why not?
They're sleazebags. All MPs are sleazebags.
You see, that's just a populist view.
No, it's not. They're all sleazebags.
No, they're not. That's not true.
They are all sleazebags, believe me.
That is you just trying to garner sort of faith and
right, here, let me tell you this. You name me an MP who... They knock on your door like this, right? And I go down to the door.
They knock on my door like that. I've got a bell.
They say, well, OK, whatever. They say, hello, Mr Parry, I'm your prospective MP for... Oh, OK. Yeah. And they say, and I said, what are your policies? Oh, I see. So you want to improve my life, do you?
Yeah.
Yes, of course I do. I want to improve the life of
How do they get past all the security at your place?
Well, this is if I ever speak to them, which I don't,
So you haven't ever spoken to anyone? So you're just making this up? It's another conversation you've imagined in your head?
No, this is one I had...
So how did they get up into the penthouse and past the steel gates?
This was many years ago when I was working on the Birmingham Mail. This guy knocked on my door, OK? Right. But I was sharp as a tack even in those days,
Really?
So I said,
just like now?
Yes, that's right, yes. So so I said, so you want to improve my life, do you? Oh, indeed I do, and not all my constituents. I said, no, you've got the argument the wrong way round, mate. He said, what do you mean? I said, no, if I vote for you, I'm improving your life.
Yes. Very good. Very good point.
I'm A, giving you a job.
Yeah.
I'm B, giving you a job in the most exclusive club in this country. It's called the House of Commons, where they serve cut-price booze 24 hours a day, so you get sloshed, start putting your hand up your secretary's skirt, because that's what MPs do, right?
Was this when he saw him disappearing down the garden path?
Well, he was trying to disappear, but I ran after him and told him what he was worth, know. And I said, you're the most dishonourable bunch of people I know in my life, because I'm a journalist, pal. I know what you lot get up to. I've been there, And I said, and if you think that you can go around convincing the voters you're improving their lives, I'm going to leaflet this neighbourhood and tell them that they are improving your life. Have you got it? Don't you ever knock on my door again? I think you're a disgrace. And
did you see any more politicians after that?
No.
I imagine they blacklisted you.
Maybe they did.
As the local nutter.
Listen, the Kensington one is great, right? So, Malcolm Rifkind. Now, one of the... you'll love this, mate. You'll love this. This fits you down to a T. One of the former MPs for Kensington, which is the plum Tory seat...
Yeah.
I mean,
must be one of the safest in the land.
Safest in the land, and it's probably in the wealthiest bit of real estate in the Western world, you know what I mean? Kensington High Street and all that kind of stuff. One of the former incumbents of that was Alan Clark.
Oh, yes.
Now, Alan Clark was a very wealthy man in his own right. He lived in a castle. Lived in a castle down in Kent. And when he went to the selection committee, they said, do you have any weaknesses, Mr. Clark? And he said, yes, I have. He said, it's womanising. I'm afraid it's something I can't control.
Yeah, which proved to be correct.
And they still elected him. They still selected him and put him in. But that's not the best of it. The reason that...
You're saying the time, by the way.
I know, don't worry about the time. You worry too much time. The reason why he got it, what was his name? Alan Clark. The reason he got it was because the previous incumbent, this is even better, was a bloke called Sir Nicholas Scott.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason he lost it was he went to some cocktail party of a neighbour's somewhere in Kensington and was found at 3 o'clock the following morning face down in the gutter by a policeman. And that was deemed to be inappropriate behaviour for the MP for Kensington, so he was deselected. I mean, if everybody who got drunk suddenly lost their jobs, there wouldn't be any journalists in this country.
Well,
and there would be few radio broadcasters.
Well, that's why journalism has changed over the years.
Absolutely.
It's not like that anymore.
Absolutely.
He's Mike Porky Parry, I'm Mike Graham. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Coming up, we're going to speak to a special guest who talks to the animals. Hopefully she'll have a lot in common with Mr. Parry. Don't sing. Stop it. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
I would converse in polar bear and python. And I would curse in fluent kangaroo. If people ask me, can you speak rhinoceros? I'd say, of course. Can't you? I conferred with our furry friend.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. I'm delighted to say, Mike, that we have an expert in animal communication just waiting to talk to us. She is Dana Miller-Coburn, and she's an animal communicator, pet psychic, and intuitive animal specialist. Now, the reason we got her on is because of what you said yesterday about how you thought you were going to learn this Gibbon language in order to further help the communication devices and facilities between humans and and gibbons. So let's see what Dana makes of it, first of all. Dana, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning. It's evening here, but good morning to you. So what's your question? What would you like to...
Well, what I'd like you to do is have a listen to some of Mr. Parry's attempts at communicating with gibbons. He thinks that he's managed to kind of replicate some of the sounds that they make scientifically, and tell us what you think.
Well, okay.
Okay, so just have a listen to this and let us know.
Wah-oo, hoo, wah-oo, hoo, 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 wah, 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 wah-oo, hoo, 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 hoo.
Now, he says that means some kind of a warning that there's a leopard on the way.
The first one was a leopard. The second one was a snake in the tree.
Right.
That's right, yeah. And Donna, this is not because I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and thought, I know how to speak Gibbon. I read a very detailed scientific report which said that it has been proven now that gibbons communicate with each other, and amongst that communication is a desire to look after their young ones and become domesticated.
Okay, so you think that talking this way to them that they may understand you, or that you feel like you can communicate with them? Is that right?
Well, I'm not sure that I can boast that. What I'm saying is, to the best of my ability, I replicated the sounds that scientists have identified and the meanings those sounds have. Now, whether coming from a human vocal cord box would be different. You're laughing at. Would be different to the sound coming from the voice box of a gibbon. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, as a more general question, we are on the point of being able to understand animals to a degree we never have before, aren't we?
Well, yes. I will be honest with you and tell you that I can't really speak to you as an anthropologist or a zoologist or something. Those are, yes, the type of communication that I work with and that others work with has much more to do with telepathy. It has to do with being able to understand other species by basically mind reading, by sending messages back and forth that is non-verbal. So I can't really speak too much to you about the sounds you're making because that's like a whole aspect of science where you're trying to understand the species. Animal communication.
I believe the two are inextricably linked, you see, because I think that you've got to be able to try and get to the mind of an animal. And in doing that, the natural development then of trying to communicate must be to do with the sounds an animal emits.
Well, it's a little bit different. What I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is basically, and again, people don't consider, animal communication or the way that we do this kind of work as, scientific, and that's why they, scoff at it. But, you're talking about something that's more like based on scientific research or study of animals or something like that.
Sure.
What I do, and the way that animals communicate also, is through telepathy. And I guess what I can tell you about it is this, that, eons ago, before humans had developed any kind of language, we spoke to each other in a nonverbal kind of a way. We understood through reading minds and that kind of thing without having to have a language.
Sure.
So animals still do the same thing. They speak to us, or we can understand them in pictures. They will send images of things. If you ask them a question, or you just put out the question, they seem to be able to read it and they can respond back. Now that.
So have you had conversations with animals like that then, Dana?
Yes, I do it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. What sort of things do they say?
Well, it really depends. There's a lot of different levels. sometimes, a lot of times people will contact me because the animal's acting very strangely, and they've talked to a dog trainer or a behaviorist, and nothing's getting any better. The reason for that, I believe, is because it's not a training thing. It's not a hardwiring type of an issue. They have an emotional thing that's going on. They're upset about something. They don't like something that they may be, living with or having to deal with. So you can basically through, again, it's almost a form of meditation where you just have to learn how to clear your conscious thoughts out and then just ask the question. Mm-hmm. And then you start with practice. It takes training. I mean, you can't just, everybody's capable of doing it, but you've got to be able to learn how to hear it and listen to it and understand it.
So what chance do you think? What chance do you think Mr. Parry's got of going? Because I thought we might just go and try it out at the zoo and try and use his kind of his ability to speak Gibbon and see whether they take any notice of him.
Well, what I'm saying is that this type of communication has nothing to do with what you're talking about, like the sounds and trying to imitate and all of that.
I get that. But what chance do you think we've got of some kind of success here?
Are you talking about using the sounds or imitating the sounds?
Using the sounds, yeah.
I would have thought if you can communicate with an animal telepathically, then surely the sounds the animal's emitting from its mouth must have some relevance to the contact that you've made telepathically with the animal. Doesn't it follow that that's the case?
Well, not really, because they can be completely silent and be sending you messages, and you're having a total...
Sure.
Without, so it really has nothing to do with what the animal elicits or what they...
But then when they open their mouths, aren't they aware
Sounds like you're barking up the wrong tree here, I have to tell you. Dana, listen, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Dana Miller-Coburn,
thank you, Dana.
Animal communicator.
No, you understand.
I think you've completely got this wrong.
No, I haven't got it wrong.
She's saying that you can't communicate to them like that.
No, that's rubbish. She's not saying that at all. She's saying that she communicates telepathically, and we have spoken to experts in America before about the telepathic communication with animals.
Yeah.
But if an animal's got, messages in its brain, then when it opens its mouth, the content of the message in its brain will come out through its mouth. It's just that it's not sounds that we know as human. They're sounds of animal sounds, Gibbon sounds, are not like human sounds.
Well, I think there's only one way to prove it, and that is to play these sounds in some way. Maybe we should record the sounds that you're making and play them to some Gibbon in a zoo.
I totally agree with you. I think that's an exercise that we've got to try and...
We did get a message actually last night from a guy whose tweet I haven't got to hand, but he said, would you please stop making these horrible noises? It's driving my dog mad.
Yeah, OK, well, maybe the dog recognises them as sounds from an animal to an animal.
Yeah,
maybe that is the case. Maybe we've made a breakthrough here.
Here's one from somebody who has texted into 81089. He says, I texted you before, my mate has a python and he talks to it and has now started going to sleep with it loose in his house. And he says Stanley the snake understands and would not hurt anyone, but I've stopped going to his home because it's a massive thing. Could Mike Parry possibly talk to Stanley the python?
You must be joking.
Why?
I can't stand snakes. They frighten me to death.
You're frightened of snakes?
I certainly am.
I thought you were an animal lover.
I'm not a snake lover. Snakes wrap themselves around you and squash the life out of you. So I don't want any of that. Do you not remember
the constricting snakes?
What was the James Bond film where he was pitched into a pool and then they released the pet python into the pool to kill him? And
that was a film.
It
was a fictitious film.
I know, but it was the Roger Moore one, and Roger Moore had to get out the secret knife and stab the python, through its head to get its brain and kill it. And they're not nice things, pythons, believe me. Remember that film once?
These are all films you're talking
Snakes
about.
on Planes.
Lots of people.
That was about loads of snakes that got loose on a plane. Imagine being at 35,000 feet and having a python coming after you. There's nowhere to go.
No, there isn't.
I'd rather jump out of the plane without a parachute.
Do you think that's what you would have done?
Than be squashed to death by a python.
Do you think that's what you would have done?
Absolutely, I would have done.
Well, lots of people have pet snakes. Then you can buy snakes to have as pets.
They're horrible. How can you have a pet snake?
Well, lots of people like snakes.
You have to feed them live mice and all that sort of
rats
stuff.
And things like that.
Oh God, that's revolting.
Did you see that story? Actually, it was in the Mail Online. Somebody that I used to work with at the Mirror. Tanith Carey wrote a piece about living in Highbury, Islington, somewhere in this very nice house in the north of London. Very expensive, and the place was overrun with rats.
I read that today somewhere.
Yeah,
and didn't she say in the end she was bonding with the cats or something like that?
Well, no, the cat ended up getting killed by the rats.
Sorry, bonding with the rats. That's what I'm saying. Didn't you have to come on accord with the rats and give them their own space in the house or something?
No, it wasn't that. No, you didn't read it properly.
And did she say it was because of the litter collections?
Not
garbage collections.
No, just that, like everybody. She
revolting
said,
story.
It's like everybody. She said, we were always told that we're only 6 feet away from a rat.
Absolutely revolting story.
Turned out that the rats had kind of, were living under the floorboards in this house.
Oh, forget it.
And the only reason they discovered was one of them died, and the horrible smell. Actually, they couldn't work out what it was.
Don't even tell me about it. I'm
going
revolted.
a funny colour.
I'm going a funny colour. Listen, talking about funny colours, by the way. You know all that rubbish food that you make, and then you put pictures of it on Twitter all the time.
Food? I don't make.
Well, you make
food.
all this exotic food, don't you?
Well, there's a difference between exotic and rubbish. Which adjective would you like to use?
And it's all funny colours. Well, listen.
Funny colours. What, like you're referring to which particular dish?
Well, I don't know, but some of it's falafel, isn't it?
No,
it is.
Do you mean falafel?
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, I don't cook with falafel,
right, well,
generally speaking. But I do quite like falafel.
Right, well, there you go, you see. There you go. Now, here, I'll show you this. Look at that. So some guy comes over, an entrepreneur, and he decides that he's going to take on McDonald's and Burger King and all that and open all these falafel.
Have you ever had falafel?
No, I wouldn't eat it.
You were in Israel, weren't you?
Yeah.
You've been in the Middle East?
I don't like hummus. Hummus is the most tasteless stuff. Hummus.
Have you got a sense of hummus?
No, I've got a sense of hummus, but not to eat the hummus stuff. It's chickpea, isn't it?
Yeah, don't you like chickpeas?
Oh, no. I had it on a plane once. I had it on an Israeli plane. It was awful. I went once to Israel. I'd been out all day getting bombed and shelled on the Golan Heights, right? And I got back to Jerusalem. I went to the King David Hotel.
Yeah.
I hadn't eeaten for like 36 hours, I was a starving man. I almost crawled into the dining room with my hands and knees, you know what I mean?
I can imagine.
Yeah, and it was terrible. And I said, give me the biggest, juiciest steak you've got. Thank you very much indeed. When it arrived, it was big, but it wasn't juicy. It was as dry as dust, as sawdust. It was a kosher steak, and I couldn't eat it because it was tasteless. Yeah. And no disrespect to the Jewish cuisine, because obviously it was cooked by, the law of the Jewish faith. Yeah. But it was tasteless to me, and it's not a food I like.
You just asked for some brown sauce, like a true kind of English connoisseur.
No, and the falafel stuff is just the same to me. Anyway, all I'm saying is,
you said you never had it.
I haven't had it, but these 6 restaurants have closed down because they couldn't interest enough people in it.
Where were they? These 6 restaurants.
I think they were in London. But do you know what they used to serve?
Falafel, probably.
No, deep-fried croquettes containing fava beans.
Yeah, fava beans.
Chickpeas. Yeah. And, like, peppers and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Vegetarian food.
Is it vegetarian? Is it vegetarian?
Well, what do you think chickpeas are?
I don't know what chickpeas are, because I don't like eating hummus, which is what they're made of. I don't know.
Hummus.
So anyway, all that didn't go down very well, and not having it anymore. The other thing about Israel is, which is great, is that all these lovely women walk around all the time saying shalom to you.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
How pleasant for you.
Shalom, shalom,
yeah. And what do you say back to them?
I say shalom. It's great.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good, yeah. Excellent. No, I like it.
Did you manage to pick any women up when you were in Israel?
Oh, I was very attractive to a lot of Israeli women because I tell you what, it was so exciting to see.
You haven't got a lot of time for this.
No, I know, but it was so exciting. What a thrill to see a gorgeous woman with long, sort of brown hair strolling along the beach, right? But with a massive machine gun slung over her shoulder.
You like that?
Yeah, I thought it was great because
you should subscribe to Guns and Ammo magazine.
No. She was a member of the IDS, the Israeli IDF, the Israeli Defence Forces. Yeah. So you didn't mess with this woman because if you did, she'd blow you away.
Ian
literally.
Duncan Smith wasn't there, was he?
Ian Duncan Smith. What's he going to do with it?
You just said IDS.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, no, you're being stupid now, as usual.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Yeah,
it's a lovely story. Thanks so much for sharing that with us.
It's great. You ever seen a woman on a beach with a machine gun?
No.
Oh, well, you see, I have.
Yeah, well, we got one up on me then. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
For extra time, we are the Two Mites. There will be a podcast coming out very, very shortly. It's just over a week away now till we go to Birmingham Repertory Theatre.
Certainly is.
Have you sorted out those extra tickets yet? Because people have been demanding some extra tickets. So we're hoping they might put a few more seats in, aren't we?
We think there's going to be 6 tickets released over the weekend. But I'm afraid that's only a thing. We've been sold out now for nearly a month.
Yeah.
And, the capacity of 300 has been met.
Yes.
But there are... apparently they can just put a little block of 6 seats in because there has been terrific demand. People showing up at the theatre and banging on the old box office window and demanding tickets for the Two Mics. So we are delighted by your response.
Well, if that does happen, we'll certainly release the news
of course we will.
At the Two Mics on the Twitter feed.
Do you think we can remind our listeners about what might be an exclusive story we have here on TalkSport, which I heard in the last show, Andy and Jason?
I don't know. What exclusive story is that?
Well, Rodney Marsh was in, right?
Yeah, he was.
Rodders and I go back a long way, done World Cups together in Germany, all that kind of stuff, and I think he's great entertainment, Rodney. But Rodney said he does a radio show over in America.
Sirius XM, I think it's called.
Right, there you go. He said he rang up Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
And Roy Hodgson was just 250 miles away in Florida at his own
in
Florida
Miami,
villa. In Miami, that's right, yeah. So he said, would you come on my show? And Roy said he would. He came on the show. First question about Harry Kane. Roy Hodgson started off by saying he's got to be in my plans in the future. But by the time he'd finished the interview, Roy Hodgson, according to Rodney Marsh, and correct me if I'm wrong, said Harry Kane will be in my next squad.
Will be in my next squad, yeah. Well, the Times did a piece on the back page, I think, one day last week, more or less alluding to that, but it didn't actually quote Roy Hodgson.
This is from the horse's mouth. This is Roy Hodgson telling Rodney Marsh, who, of course, is a regular correspondent with us here at Talk Sport, Harry Kane will be in the next squad.
Yeah.
Now, if I was a Fleet Street executive, I'd be listening to this show because I know there's always information going around on Talk Sport. I'd have that whipped into the paper as an exclusive back page splash tomorrow morning.
Well, maybe you should reenact your former role as the FA's chief press officer and give them all a call.
Who knows?
Now, a couple of tweets that I want to read out to you.
Okay.
Here's one from Matt, who says, Mike Parry seems totally incapable of talking Gibbon. However, gibberish seems to be his second language.
What? What do you say that for? You see, that's a very, very sweeping statement. If you'd have listened to the broadcast last night and realised the sources from which I was quoting my information and the replicative noises I was making, which have been thoroughly identified by scientists, you wouldn't be making fun of me.
Here's one from Zobon.
But you see, Mike, when you stick your head above the parapet in this world, when you decide that you will release information...
When you call yourself one of the tall flowers, like Jerry Barton does.
Well, I didn't call myself a tall flower. Jerry Barton calls himself. Flower. He does, yeah. But when you release information that you know has credibility issues because it's so...
hard to believe.
It's so incredulous and all that...
Hard to believe.
Then, of course, you're going to have the mickey taken out of you. I just wish people would, over a period of time, realise that 99% of what I tell you turns out in the end to be spot on accurate.
Absolutely
it's
rubbish.
as accurate as a missile fired from a T-45
from a North Korean missile site.
A T-45 Royal Navy destroyer, which can in effect hit a cricket ball flying through the air in New York when it's berthed in Portsmouth.
You think so? Are you sure about that?
I know that.
Here's one from Zobon, who says, are you sure Mike Parry's from Earth? Because this new Gibbon language he's speaking makes me think he's an avatar. Here's one from Bantam Bouncer, who says it would take a very big snake to get around Porky's gut. And John, this one's rather unfair, actually. I wish a snake would wrap itself around Mike Parry's vocal cord box and choke him.
That's not very nice.
It's not very nice, that, is it?
Well, Liz
these
here,
are the kind of emotions that you dream up in people.
Old Liz here, who's a regular correspondent, a big supporter, she says, I like your new catchphrase, don't worry about the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a new catchphrase, Liz. That is just to try and calm down old MG here, who panics every time the finger of the clock moves towards a break.
I don't panic. It's just that we have to do things. We have to do things towards an actual time frame.
And Liz continues by saying, I loved your hey, hey, hey. That was brilliant. Louis Van Gaal Reigns.
Yes. Now, talking about noises, and, as we were talking to our last guest there about the Dana Miller-Coburn, you call her Dana, by the way, it's Dana.
Dana,
She was talking about, the way that people used to converse before they learned speech, right?
Seismic,
And have you not found something out about cavemen's compassion as well that you want to talk about?
Do you know the caveman thing is quite amazing? By the way, just the last one here.
Because some people would say that the Gibbon sounds that you make actually sound more like caveman speak.
No.
Don't you think?
No, Caveman didn't speak to start off. I'm going to tell you about it in a sec. Just this one last tweet here. Did Mike Parry really just say that the lady with the machine gun would blow him away? And I said, no. I said it makes a woman much more attractive when she's carrying a machine gun around. But the idea
why do you think that?
Well,
it's a very odd thing to think.
No, it's not, because the idea of seeing a beautiful young woman, wielding a machine gun, it's quite an image, isn't it?
Well, it might be an image, but why is it not a particularly attractive one? Well, Texter here says, Porky should check out those films which consist of nothing but women in bikinis firing machine guns and automatic weapons.
Really? I've never seen a film like that.
You should go and join the NRA.
Right, here you go. Oochie, coochie, ugh. That's a caveman communication.
Caveman?
Oochie, coochie,
what about caveman? Why do you say caveman?
I said caveman.
No, you said caveman.
Now,
you said birdman the other night.
Birdman, yeah. What's wrong
with that? Birdman.
Well, you know,
you just said caveman instead of caveman.
You know what I'm talking about. Don't.
It's mispronunciation.
Don't be splitting hairs, you fool. Now then, I've got a report from another. Sorry, I've got details of another report here. and it's all about cavemen having...
Cavemen?
Yes, they had they had emotions before they could speak. Now, the original caveman was the Australopithecine.
Oh, yeah.
I'll pronounce that again. It was the Australopithecines. That was a group of cavemen.
Really?
The
Group of cavemen?
A group of cavemen called... Look, just let me get on with it, will you? A group of cavemen called the Australopithecines, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where do they
live?
They developed kindness... Well, lived in caves. They developed... obviously, you know. They developed kindness, compassion, and a sense of beauty long before the emergence of intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
They had brains...
Like you, then?
Hang on, don't be ridiculous. They had brains only 60% of the size of brains today.
Yes. That's tick that box.
They had a form of behaviour called Homo ergaster, which meant caring for the ill, while Homo heidelbergensis was nursing the disabled and looking after children. Now, these people didn't have children, but they used to carry pebbles around with them.
Pebbles? Yeah. What, the one from Flintstones?
Well, that sort of thing, because it reminded them of babies' faces. They were a weird old race, but they were the predecessors to us. These people were around, how long ago were they? 450,000 years ago.
Really?
I mean, I can't comprehend that sort of time, can you?
Not really,
450,000 years.
It's a long time, isn't it?
I mean, you know, we're in now the 2,000th year, the third, aren't we? The 3,000th year of life.
Century.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the second millennium. We're in the second millennium.
Second millennium?
We're in the second millennium, that's what I just said.
We're in the third millennium.
We're in the third millennium. That's what I said. You said century.
No, you said the second millennium.
We're in the third because we've been through two millenniums.
That's what
we're now in the third.
Well, you said we were in the second.
And then you disrupted me by
I just
calling
wanted to
them
give
centuries.
Yeah.
Anyway, human evolution is usually depicted as driven by intelligence with empathy and deeper emotions, says this report from York University. But the evidence suggests it happened the other way around. Evolution made us sociable, living in groups, looking after one another. Even before we had the ability to communicate, there was no language. Our success since then, including the evolution of intelligence, all sprang from the human emotional feelings, which you've only just discovered we had.
I suppose you might say that the reason that cavemen were so successful in their evolution was that they did discover something that animals didn't have, which was basically compassion. Because without compassion,
that's what I'm saying.
The animals and survival of the fittest means that either the species dies out or they're not able to really evolve.
Absolutely,
you may be
right.
onto something here.
Absolutely. This report is called How Compassion Made Us Human, points to an archaeological find hinting that even pre-humans had unsuspected emotional depths. Among the earliest is the Macapanagassetta pebble, a small rock with pits and markings resembling a baby's face, which they used to carry around with them.
Shame you haven't got any compassion, though, so you must be evolving backwards.
No, don't be ridiculous. I've got huge compassion. Why do you think I look after things like Tommy the chimp in his cage in New York?
You don't do anything for him.
Why do you think that I'm now concerned about Sandra the elephant in India, who's been treated appallingly?
How about this picture for you?
I have loads of compassion. What's that?
That's a picture somebody just tweeted.
Oh, that's a lady in a bikini carrying a machine gun, but a bit more. That's from a film, obviously, isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, it must be. It looks like Angelina Jolie in, what was that film called?
Doesn't look anything like Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, it does. What was the film called that she was in?
Well, there was lots of films.
All the guns. No, all the guns, she was like a secret agent, a woman secret agent.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
No, you fool. She's...
Tomb Raider?
Tomb Raider.
She was a secret agent.
She was?
Rubbish. We are the two mics.
What was she then?
Coming up. She was a Tomb Raider, you idiot.
No, she was a secret agent. Wah-oo! Ooh! Wah-oo! Ooh! 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 Wah! Wah! Ka-ora! Ka-ora! Kamata! Wah! 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 Tanugahi! Tanugahi! Wah-oo! Hoo! Parangawawanga! Parama! Pai! Hoo! 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 This is factual.
That's the hacker blended with the Gibbon speak.
Yeah,
I quite like that.
I'm honestly going to stop researching all these things, which I do for the benefit of this show and for the benefit of our millions of listeners. No. And you start taking the mickey. I mean, when do you ever come up with a research document which needs a wider audience?
I haven't got time for that.
Never.
I've got too much going on.
Never.
Do you know what? I spent a long time today, actually, renewing my driver's road tax.
Yeah, how much was it?
It was about 300 quid.
I can't believe that. They used to cost 25 quid.
I know.
And
then it went up to about 50 or 60.
Yeah, I'm not
But you're
joking.
in for a shock, because when you have to renew yours, you'll find yours is about 200 quid.
No, it's more than that, I think.
What do you mean you think?
because it's a new car. It
doesn't get any cheaper if it's an old car.
I think it does.
No, it doesn't.
I think. Are you sure?
No,
are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway.
When's yours due for renewal, anyway?
November.
Are you sure?
Yeah, but I'm going to change the car by then.
Are you?
Yeah, I might go back to the Jag. I've got a black Jag lined up with black wheels.
Have you?
It's rather
like
nice.
sort of pimped up one.
Well, no. I mean, it's a special edition, you know. But I've been offered it, and so I'm having
special edition.
Have a look at it.
Black wheels. You look like some kind of rock star driving around in it.
Yeah, that's right.
So is that the idea?
Not really, but I mean, I look distinctive, and I like being distinctive because I think I have a distinctive and individual approach to life.
Yes, you
okay?
do. You do.
Wrong. Now, listen. I get a lot of communication. So do you about the iron ore situation, right?
Yeah. We need updates on the iron ore situation.
Well, it's not so much. It's not so much the iron ore situation, but iron ore, of course, comes from Western Australia mostly.
Yeah.
Where they have trains which are like a mile long. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which haul the iron ore from the iron ore mines. Because they're open cast mines, iron ore comes from.
Does it?
You know that, don't you?
No.
Yeah, it does. They dig it out the side of mountains and all that kind of stuff, you know?
So does it leave this horrendous kind of scar on the landscape?
Well, it does, but from my experience of visiting these places, they then landscape them afterwards, you know what I mean? To return them to the natural beauty.
Well, how do they do that then?
Plant foliage on the holes that are left. And
cover them with trees?
Sorry?
Cover them with trees?
Yeah, cover them with trees and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's not good for the environment, is it?
Well, of course it is, because you've got to have iron ore to build things in the world. But anyway, look, the big problem is...
Yeah.
The big problem is now that the whole of the iron ore industry is under threat from huge hordes of mad camels, which are galloping around... No, it's true.
How can it possibly be true?
How can it be true?
What have the mad camels got to do with it?
The mad camels are galloping around all over Western Australia looking for water.
Where have you heard this
Seriously. It's not what I've heard it from. I've spoken to people in Australia, and I've researched reports on it.
What do you mean looking for water?
They've got no water.
They haven't got camels in Australia anyway.
They've got 500,000 camels in Western Australia.
Have they?
Yes,
Why?
500,000.
Where'd they come from then?
Well, they came from
swim across the sea.
Don't be ridiculous.
Well, they're not indigenous, are they? They're not indigenous.
They were imported 100 years ago when they were needed as an alternative to, well, I'm sorry, as a predecessor to the steam train and the steam engine.
Oh, right.
And so
that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Of course it was. But what happened was they've
now multiplied, have they?
Of course they have. They had thousands of camels, right? And then when, obviously, it became cheaper and cheaper to run steam engines and trains and cars and all that.
And horses, even.
And horses, they let the camels go. So then the camels have
they've just been roaming around Western Australia.
Been roaming around Western Australia, and they've now reproduced...
I'm surprised they haven't shot them.
In such... Well, you can't. There's so many of them now. There's about 1 million of them.
No, but I mean, people go on kangaroo shooting escapades, don't they, out in Australia?
No,
I'm surprised they haven't shot the camels.
Honestly, there's about 1 million mad camels in Western Australia, all running round and causing a real problem. 20,000 camels were shipped to Australia from the Middle East between 1880 and 1907.
Right. Well, and now they've multiplied into 500,000.
There's now 500,000 of them, OK, because when motor vehicles arrived, they were just cast away into the wilderness and all that kind of stuff. Authorities have been attempting to control the camel numbers for the last 20 years, but the problem is the mass cull, which they've tried to organise every now and then, it just dissipates because the camels run away.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they're running around berserk all over the place because there is no water. There's simply no water.
But what do they do to the iron ore then?
Well, it's not what they do to the iron ore. What happens is that they prowl around in mobs of about 200. If you see what I mean. You know what I mean?
Well, like a gang of camels.
Yeah, they are. They're gangs of camels. They are.
Absolute rubbish.
And the gangs are as big as 200. So these gangs of 200 camels go around, and what they do is they're
ransacking the place.
Yeah, they're so mad for water. They're so mad for water that they've got, because of their breeding in deserts over thousands of years. Yeah. They instinctively smell water, right? Much more so than a horse does.
They need water though, camels. That's part of the reason they're so useful.
They don't need water very often, but they do need water. Yeah. That's why they've got humps to store it in. Right. Okay. So what happens is they can smell water from maybe 30 or 40 miles away. Yeah. They then gallop in the direction of the water, and if there happens to be an iron ore camp in between them and the water. They go straight through it, smash it to pieces. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trample it to pieces. They smash up yards. They get one whiff of water. They just panic. They crash all over each other, and they crash all over the buildings in front of them.
We've never heard about this story before.
Well, because I'm telling you now, because it's a phenomenon that's only just been happening in the last few weeks, months, okay? But I'm first of all to bring it to the attention of the world and to our millions of listeners, okay? But it is a huge problem. It is a huge problem.
Have you got any pictorial evidence of these mad camels?
Well, I haven't got round to that yet, but it will exist.
Mad camel disease.
It will exist.
I'll see if I can find something.
Listen, the other thing that's happening in Australia, because obviously researching this, you come on to other things.
Yes.
The
Australians... to get Sandra Lee on to talk about some of this stuff.
I think it's a good idea. Sandra comes on tomorrow night. She'd back this up. University of Sydney, right?
Yeah.
The researchers there think they've found a hormone that's transplantable into people, which can literally eradicate drunkenness.
How do you do that?
Well, it's called oxytocin.
Oh, yeah.
Oxytocin. Oxytocin.
Yeah.
And you inject that into somebody who's blind drunk and they become blind sober, so to speak, instantly.
Well, that's not very good, is it, though? Because presumably would that not then mean that you're damaging your internal organs in all sorts of different ways? But actually, if you think that you're not drunk, then obviously this is going to be doing you more damage.
I don't know. It works on rats. They've been trying it on rats in laboratories, and when they inject an inebriated rat with this particular thing, oxytocin, the rat becomes sober immediately.
Right.
How about that?
Well, I
it's
suppose...
called the love hormone, by the way, oxytocin.
Oxytocin, is that not the thing that sort of fires your pheromones? And
I think it does, yeah. I think it does.
It sort of fires off when you eat chocolate and stuff like that as well.
It does. The hormone prevents alcohol from accessing specific sites in the brain known as the delta subunit GABA-A receptor.
GABA-hey.
It's GABA-A. It's called GABA-A.
No, GABA-hey is a song by the Ramones.
Oh, is it? I don't know about that. And apparently it's been very, very successful.
Well, maybe you should try it out.
So much to the point it's been written up in the very, very authoritative journal, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in Australia.
Well, fancy
How about that?
Fancy that. I've just found a picture of some camels in Western Australia. They don't seem to be marauding particularly, though.
Let me have a look.
Yeah, there. They're just kind of walking. There's no pictures of them attacking any iron ore facilities.
Well, what you've done
might
is...
get a bit carried away.
No. You seem to have found them here when they just seem to be approaching a waterhole, or maybe they've just been to the waterhole.
They look quite calm.
But I mean, why would I get reports of of herds of mad camels trampling down
camel disease? Well, you might
whole
well ask.
Communities because they're deranged with their lack of water, and it's happening. Believe me,
you might well ask.
Yeah,
but it certainly seems to be correct that there's a load of Western Australian camels. That's true.
That's what I mean.
But I certainly never knew that.
Oh, I've seen them there. I've been to West Australia.
You said you've only flown over it, though.
No. I've been to many parts of Western Australia, including Monkey Mia, which is the world's top dolphin resort, including a place called Exeter.
No, here's a story here.
Yeah.
Thirsty camels go on rampage.
Well, there you go. See? And you doubted me, didn't you?
That's from the Times.
Is it? Well, I don't know anything about that, mate. I don't get my information from the Times. I get my information from the camel's mouth, so to speak, if you know what I mean.
Just a couple of days ago, that was.
Yeah. Oh, is that right? Yeah. Well, you see, there you go. It's all coming to the fore now, and you got it from me first.
Yeah.
Look, I keep meaning to ask you, because of your unhappy domestic relationship from the past, you know.
Uh-huh.
Met your daughter Emma, and of course she was a product of it, and that's much to your credit and all that kind of stuff.
What do you mean? What are you getting at?
Well, what I want to know is this.
What?
What happened to the remnants of your marriage, the physical remnants?
What do you mean the physical remnants?
Your wedding ring.
Well, it's somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Well, I think that's a bit, mean not to even know where.
Well, I think it's in one... You know, when you get these cufflink boxes, I've got, about half a dozen cufflink boxes, which I keep a variety of things in, like stays for the collar and various different cufflinks and things. I think it's in one of those boxes, but I haven't seen it for a while.
Well, doesn't it mean an awful lot to you and all that kind of stuff? Why not?
Why would it?
Well, because, your children were a product of your marriage, right?
Yeah, so?
So that should mean something to you.
My children mean something to me, not a bloody wedding ring.
Oh, a bloody wedding ring. Oh, well, did it mean anything to you when you were married?
No.
Why?
Well, you should take it off.
Why? Oh, I see. So you could chat with other women?
If I was asked to, yeah.
So you could chat with other women?
No, I never took it off for that reason.
Yes, you did.
I can't tell you why I took it off.
Why did you take it off then?
Well, some women didn't like me wearing it.
These were women that you were chatting up?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you do admit that your disgraceful desire to be unfaithful to your wife included you disseminating yourself of your wedding ring.
Only if I was asked to. I never did it beforehand.
Who asked you to?
I'm not telling you. Some things in my life I regard as secret.
Hang on, so you chat a woman up wearing your wedding ring and quite shamelessly reveal that you were married.
Yeah.
And then the shameless hussy that you were with, who didn't care that you were married, would say, I'd like you to be unmarried, you take your wedding ring off.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking you this is because some chap...
the time, by the way.
Never mind the time. Some chap who did actually value his wedding ring, right, a guy called Mark Thorne, he lost it. You won't believe this. He lost it.
That's a good story.
A lifeboat man in 2008. And guess what? Walking his dog on the beach, the very same beach, just this week.
How many years later?
7.
Yeah.
Found it lying on the beach in the sand.
I bet that's just a story he's told his wife.
On the beach in the sand.
I bet that's just a story he's told his wife. Oh, look, I found
Spent years sifting through the salt and the silt and even hired a man with a metal detector.
Yeah.
But then, just walking the dog, he found it lying on the beach.
Don't
How
believe
about
a word
that?
of it. You are the most gullible man I've ever met.
No.
You believe anything that anybody tells you.
No, but it means nothing to you. Wedding ring means nothing to you. You're a disgrace. You're a disgrace. You should never have taken the vows of marital bliss. You should never have taken them.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. Coming up next, it's PorkyVision. The boys on the siren may have to be particularly paying attention on this version of PorkyVision because this is where you, for the last 2 days, have been declaring that you're going to reveal the ending of Broadchurch. Are you sure you can't think of a way of doing it without actually giving it away?
No.
Without telling us what the verdict of the jury was?
No. I serve the majority, not the minority. Now, what I will say to you... Well,
there's a whole load of people around the world who haven't seen it yet.
What I will say to you... By the way, I used to work at the Football Association as Director of Communications.
Yeah, you didn't keep much secret then, did you?
No, I didn't, no. With a chap called David Davis, who was formerly a North West correspondent of the BBC. He's former education correspondent as well, actually.
Was he?
And got round to becoming a sports reader, at the end of the BBC News. And he's the man who invented the expression, for those who don't want to know the scores, because Match of the Day is coming up next, turn away now.
Look away now.
Look away now. Look away now. He invented that, right?
Did he?
So what I'm doing is inventing this. If you don't want to know what happened at the end of Broadchurch, put your earplugs in now. And then to break for 5 seconds, get them to put the earplugs in. Now I will start, OK?
So you're going to tell us now, are you?
I'm going to tell you.
Can we have the siren?
No, you don't need the siren. No. It's all over.
It's not all over. Lots of people haven't seen the series
yet.
The
second series
is
all over.
The Americans haven't seen it, the Scandinavians haven't seen it, the Australians haven't seen it. We've got a worldwide listening public out there.
Put your earplugs in now.
Who are going to be very upset.
Put your earplugs in now. Now, what happens is that the last episode of the series opens in the court where the last minutes of the previous episode... The foreman of the jury was about to...
Was it not four-person they called it? Which,
four-woman.
They called it four-person.
Four-person, do they? OK, yeah.
Which is the most ludicrous kind of, mangling of the English language, because four-person doesn't mean anything.
Well, the clerk of the court has asked, have you reached a verdict? Yes. Was it a unanimous verdict? No. Was it by majority? Yes.
Right.
What is your verdict? And remember, the guy... Thank you. There's no air raid over London à ce moment. The guy in the dock is Joe Miller.
Yeah.
He has already confessed to killing the boy who's the victim, Danny Latimer, OK? But then, the minute he got into court, he changed his plea and said not guilty, so he had to have a long, drawn-out trial.
Yeah.
And what happened is...
Hang on.
Yeah.
I've got this tweet here from... Richard, who says, I'm not from New Zealand, but I went to the street tour and the guides ask if anybody's from New Zealand so they don't ruin the storyline.
Right.
So there is a way of doing it.
Well, I've said put your earplugs in now.
No, they don't want to put their earplugs in.
Because now I'm going to tell you, he was found...
Maybe if I just keep talking over you, they won't get it. They won't actually hear it. Don't say it.
They will.
Don't say it.
Not guilty.
Don't say it.
Thank you. Not guilty. Right. So then...
So he was found guilty then?
Not guilty.
Not guilty?
Not guilty.
You sure it's not guilty?
Not guilty, definitely. Yeah. So then what happened is, of course, because Broadchurch is supposed to be a small community, then, of course, the local people take their own revenge. And it's great the way they do it.
Right.
Because the father of Danny Latimer then...
You don't have to tell us everything now.
Oh, yeah, I will tell you now.
You don't. You shouldn't.
He and his workmate... Go and get this guy, because he's taken sanctuary in a church, because remember, the vicar was always a very dodgy character.
Was a bit,
very, very dodgy.
Who admitted in a previous episode that he had hit rock bottom and he was living rough.
That's right, and all that kind of stuff. So he goes and seeks sanctuary in the church. Yeah. So then Danny Latimer's father dashes in with his workmate, the guy with the bald head, who's also a suspect.
Yeah.
And they literally drag him out. And, of course, everybody thinks they're taking him off to kill him.
Yeah.
And they drag him up the...
you don't have to tell us what happens next.
No, I've got to tell you. It's so exciting. And they
because there's another series to come, isn't there, as well?
Oh, no, but that'll be a totally different story. This story ends. Oh, it will be. This story ends,
no, I don't think so, because everyone thought that the second series would be a different story.
No, this definitely ends.
In fact, it's the same story.
There's no way back. I
can't believe that.
And they take him to the...
Surely they'll have to have another trial.
They take him to the hut where Danny was killed.
Yeah.
So they take this guy, because everybody knows he's the killer, by the way. The jury got it wrong.
Oh, really?
The jury got it completely wrong.
How does everybody know that, then?
Because we all knew after we watched the first series that it was him, definitely.
Not necessarily.
Oh, no, definitely. There's no doubt about that.
Well, then they did a whole second series on a pyramid of piffle, then, didn't they?
No. The jury got it wrong in the end, and Charlotte Rampling, who was the barrister, was shattered. Her life was over. She's drinking gin at the end.
She's going blind as well, isn't she?
And all that. She's going blind and all that kind of...
died.
Mind you, I'm not surprised the amount of gin she was putting back in the last episode. But anyway, they drag him back to the actual hut, the beachside hut, where Danny was killed.
Can you not leave some of it for people to discover?
He goes in there. There's a kangaroo court.
You really are
court comprising of, Danny's dad, who's dragged him out of the church and dragged up there, and of course Miller. Who's his wife, the detective sergeant.
Oh, yeah, Mrs. Miller.
Mrs. Miller, his wife, right? And they say, right, that's it, you're banished. And they banish him from Broadchurch. He's then taken in a car to this is a good bit, to the railway station at Bournemouth, OK?
Oh, yeah.
That's the nearest big railway station. I know that station very well. I've been down to Bournemouth a few times on that train, yes. And
a nice station?
It's a nice station, yeah, nice station.
It's got a bar?
It's got a bar, yeah. It's got 2 bars, I think.
2 bars.
And they put him on the train with a minder who is a mate of the vicar's, right, the dodgy vicar.
Yeah.
And he goes to Sheffield, to a halfway house that the vicar's found for him, and is told never to go any further south than Sheffield again for the rest of his life.
Really?
Okay?
That's a terrible fate, that, isn't it?
But it is. But then it ends rather weirdly, because then all the main characters in the show all end up back on the beach where Danny's body was originally found.
Do you have to give, chapter and verse?
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah.
No, enough. No, I'm going to stop you now.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm going to stop you now.
And they bring loads of flowers.
I'm not having it.
And they have a barbecue on the beach in celebration of Danny's life, and everybody's laughing and happy.
That's enough.
And happy.
Give us something else.
Right, I'm going to tell you about Steptoe and Son.
Is that the only other thing you watched this week?
Well, I've watched a couple of episodes.
What about Fortitude and Coronation Street and
I've given up with Fortitude.
EastEnders last week? You missed the biggest storyline of all.
I never mention it. Never watch EastEnders. Coronation Street's good, but I'm about 4 episodes behind, so really? I can't give you up to date on that.
Okay,
so that's okay. Now on Steptoe and Son. Now everybody thinks Steptoe and Son was a rather sort of witty and nice sort of programme about an old guy who was a rag and bone man,
right,
and his son who was in the same business as him. But it isn't, you see. If you watch it carefully...
What is it then?
It's about the oppression of a man who had ambitions in life by his selfish, toothless father who just wanted him to look after him in his dotage, in his old age,
right,
who never let him out of his sight.
Constantly prevented him from doing anything
else. Constantly put him down. Constantly told him he wasn't good enough or good-looking enough to attract a woman.
That's what you'd be like if you were a father.
Hang on.
You'd be like.
Wasn't good-looking enough to attract a woman.
These are very similar traits to the ones that you exhibit when you're talking to me.
If you look at the... Yeah, if you look at
exactly the kind of things you say to me.
If you look at the clues in all the episodes, you begin to believe that old Steptoe, played by Wilfred Bramble...
Yeah.
Harold, bring me tea. He was a whinging old git, I suppose, is a word you can say, right? And he made his life a misery.
Yeah.
And you believe that he actually kept him illiterate all his life, so he couldn't improve himself.
Yeah.
So the only thing that... Harold... And Wilfred Bramble used to rub his hands like that character in the Dickens novel.
Yeah,
you know?
Uriah Heep.
Uriah Heep, ever so humble.
And he wore those fingerless gloves as well, didn't he?
Ever so humble, sir. Yeah. And they lived in a rag and bone man's dwelling, which is full of junk.
A house.
And what was the name of the horse?
I can't remember.
Is it Napoleon or something?
I can't remember.
I think it was Napoleon.
I haven't seen this show for about 40 years.
No, but anyway, what I'm saying is, do not take Steptoe and Son at face value as a story about, you ruined my life. I never, ever could bring a woman back home here because of you dirty old man.
It was known as Hercules.
Yeah, Hercules. The horse was Hercules, that's right, yeah. And it was just, it's a story, a detailed story of oppression.
Yeah.
Of a man whose life was wasted by his belligerent...
Which one of the two do you identify with?
The younger one, Harold.
Really?
Oh, yeah, Harold.
So who do you think's oppressed you, then?
Nobody's oppressed me. I didn't say anybody oppressed me.
Well, how do you identify with the younger one?
I'm not oppressed. I don't identify. I
just asked you who did you identify with, and you said the younger one.
No, I empathise, never identify. I empathise with the young guy whose life was ruined by being told all his life he had to walk around in a pair of wellies with the tops turned down and ride around on a what do you call it? A truck? Not a truck. A cart. A cart being pulled by the horse Hercules. That's and it's a terribly oppressive story, which reduced me to tears in the last edition. I felt so sorry for Harold and his ruined life. Harold?
Pathetic.
Harold, yeah.
Well, if you were a father,
dirty old man.
If you were a father, you'd be like the old geezer.
I don't think I would be.
Like.
I don't think I would
we
be.
are the two
I'd be a
Mikes.
Compassionate
Apologies
father.
for
give my children everything.
Yeah, right. That's why I haven't got any.
What?
This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. We are the two Mikes. Follow us at the two Mikes, at Mike Parry, at IROMG. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. The third one of the week, of course, on iTunes. Just follow the Twitter account. I've got some information for you, which has just come to me about Broadchurch, actually.
Oh, yeah, go
Apparently,
on.
the people of Sheffield have now complained that this killer has landed up in Sheffield.
I can't believe that.
And has been banished to be there forever. They say it's not the right image that they want for their town.
How ridiculous is that? How have they complained?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think they've put a complaint into the TV company saying, why did you pick Sheffield? Why did you not pick some fictitious place? Because, of course, because Broadchurch is a fictitious town.
Yeah, sure.
I suppose you might say they should have chosen a fictitious town in the north of England.
Well, you can't. They said they took him to Bournemouth railway station.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, it occurred to me, I thought, that's a long journey on a train, Bournemouth to Sheffield, you know. But they want to get him right out of the way. Well, I mean, could I just point out that of all the towns I've been to in this country, from Newcastle to Nottingham to Sheffield to Liverpool to Chester to Birmingham, they all have criminals. Yeah. Every town has criminals in this country, unfortunately.
But I suppose they don't want to be known as the destination, the final destination for, some horrible killer.
Well, that's ludicrous.
But this is the nature of the way we now live, isn't it? With the whole fictitious kind of nonsense that people believe.
How many jails are on the Isle of Wight?
How many?
Yeah.
Well, there's
3.
There's at least, I was going to say at least 2, isn't there?
There's Parkhurst, and then there's another one, another one. They're all high... what you call them?
Hey, I meant to tell you something, actually. I might have to look it up. But, when you take the Isle of Wight ferry, there's a sort of a fort, for want of a better word.
There's 2, actually.
In the middle of the Solent.
Yes, that's
One
right.
of them's been turned into a hotel.
Yes, it has.
And I was sent an email by one of these exclusive holiday companies.
You can go there for lunch.
£1,000 a night they want for it.
What, you mean actually stay there?
You can stay there.
I didn't know that. I know one of them's an exclusive restaurant.
No,
and
they've
turned
one into I think it must be the same one. Yeah. They've turned it into a hotel.
Well...
It doesn't look very nice, though.
Well, to be honest, there's not much appeal for me on that because it's a circular fort.
Yeah, it's a circular fort.
It was built to stop Napoleon.
It's not a Second World War thing.
No. I mean, to be honest, they are engineering miracles because they were built in the early 1800s.
Because it looks a bit like a sort of Second World War encampment.
No, they're not, honestly. They go right back to the end of the 18th century, believe it or not. They were built in about 1793, something like that. And they had to literally just take out boats from the British Navy, the Royal Navy. And mind you, we had 700 boats in those days. And they just dropped rocks overboard, right, until the rocks came to the surface and they built the fort on top of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how they had to do it. And
you sure it hasn't been fortified since then?
No, definitely not.
Because it looks like it's made of concrete.
No, believe me, they were built and they've been restored and all that.
No, that's what I mean.
They've had the...
they must have used them in the Second World War then.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Mark. I can't tell you. I only study the history of the Solent through the Napoleonic period.
Oh,
you know
really?
what I mean? Although, what are you laughing at?
That's a load of old cobblers.
No. I know all about the D-Day landings, where they took off from and all that.
Let me tell you what you don't know anything about, right?
Yeah.
Camels, because I've got a couple of tweets and texts coming in. One from Mark, who says, tell Porky it's a myth. Camels don't store water in their humps. It is all fatty tissue.
Yes, I know that.
Well, you said they stored water in the humps.
Well, if I told you that 80% of the human body is water, and therefore the 80% of a camel is water, there must be water in their humps. So
that's an interesting conclusion.
That guy's just being, splitting hairs again. People are always splitting hairs with me because I stick my head above the parapet, right?
Stop it.
I stick my head above the parapet. I say it like it is. I get shot down all over the place.
Picota says, gangs of camels roaming around. I'm literally crying here.
Why?
You're a proper pair of
You
legends.
should be crying for the camels.
Liz says, mad camel syndrome is also known as Mike Parry. My sides ache from laughing.
Oh, that's very nice.
John says, MG, Porky is spot on. I live in Western Australia and I've been housebound for 3 years because of those crazy camels.
Well, there you go. You see? There you go.
I think he's not really taking it too seriously.
I'm telling you.
And Ali says, Friday night, fight night, a gang of camels versus the drunken rats.
Oh, yeah, right. What drunken rats are they talking about
there? The ones you mentioned earlier.
No. Oh, yes, that's right. In the laboratories. Yes, you're right. No, you're right. But anyway, look, I don't know why we're dwelling on this. We've got so much else we can talk about. I mean, for instance.
Yeah, go on.
Do you ever get stopped on the streets by these chugger guys?
Oh, not very often, because I don't literally allow myself to be stopped on the street by anybody. They try to stop me.
I totally agree with you.
I just go, sorry.
I totally agree.
Sometimes I don't even speak to them.
They're very intimidating. And
no, they're not. You're not intimidated by them, surely?
No, I'm not, but they are for old women.
For old women.
And old people, really. They're very intimidating.
Old women who like cats.
And do you know what? I reckon that they're given some sort of training in human relations or something like that. You know what I mean?
They are.
They're not, because the guys I see, they're more like acrobats. I'm not joking. They spring up to people and they say, good day, how are you? How you doing? You having a nice day? What you got there in your bag? And all this kind of stuff. Where have you been shopping? Really intrusive stuff. If anybody asks me personal questions like that, in fact, fully enough, I was in a pub in...
funnily enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe the story that you're about to tell starts with, funnily enough, I was in a pub.
At the weekend when I was with the family, right, and this guy, I ordered a few drinks in this pub, and then he said, how are you going to make up your day today, then?
Eh?
Yeah, how are you going to make up your day today, then?
Was this the guy behind the bar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him, and then he asked me again. I said, I'm sorry. I said, are you talking to me? You talking to me? Yeah, that's right, yeah. And he said, yes, sir. I said, what are you trying to find out?
Well, that's not the same as somebody asking for money in the street, though. Why can't you just be pleasant to the guy?
I said, what are you trying to find out what I'm doing my day for? What's it got to do with you?
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm sorry.
That's incredibly rude of you.
No, I find that an intrusive question. If you don't mind...
Well, why don't you just give him some ridiculous answer?
And say what? I felt embarrassed. I wasn't going to tell him what I was doing.
I'll give you a list of things that you could say that would shut him up.
Go on.
Well, I'm going to see that woman over there.
Yeah.
I'm going to take her and that other woman, and I'm going to take them back to a hotel.
Yeah.
Do you want to come?
And
say something like that.
Say
something like that.
That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, but he would soon get lost.
Yeah, but anyway,
he'd think you were a nutcase.
I said, please don't ask me a question like that again. Anyway,
or say I'm going to be fired out of a cannon in about 2 hours' time. Can you make it snappy with the food?
Well, again, but I don't.
I mean, that's the kind of thing I would say.
I don't wish to belittle myself. But he might then think that I think it's funny and I'm having a joke with him. Then he might have a joke with me next time.
It's better than you being rude to him.
Well, it's not. I put the man in his place, and he knows his place in life. He should do.
You won't be going back there for a while, then.
Well, I will, but I'll have a word with the boss and say, make sure that guy doesn't serve me. Gets in my face.
It's somebody who this just shows you how people get a bit upset about things up north.
Right.
Dave says Northern Town ? 5th biggest city in the country. I presume he's talking about Sheffield.
Yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah.
What's wrong with calling it a Northern Town?
Well, I don't know. It is a Northern Town.
He's taking
it's a city, a Northern city, I suppose.
Mind you, he describes himself as a Sheffield United fan and a socialist.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. If I came from Sheffield and I was a football fan, I wouldn't boast too much about coming from Sheffield. Neither of the teams have ever won anything. Literally never won anything.
Well, you don't want to upset the people of Sheffield, though.
So it's all very well boasting about being the 5th biggest city in the country, but Bristol is the 7th biggest city in the country. They've won even less football-wise than Sheffield.
I think I'd have to say I prefer Bristol to Sheffield, to be honest.
Sheffield's not a bad town.
It's on the
edge of the Peak District.
Yeah, I've driven through it several times.
I used to have a friend I used to go and stay with there, and we used to take, rambles into the Peak District.
Rambles?
Yes, that type of stuff, Ramble. You could ramble for 3 or 4 miles and go to a lovely pub.
I thought the Peak District was between Manchester and Derby.
Well, it's in Derbyshire, but believe it or not, it's right on the edge of Yorkshire as well, where Sheffield is.
Are you sure?
Very close. Yeah. I went to a place called...
What's the name of that town with the witchy spire?
That's Chesterfield.
That's Chesterfield.
That's Chesterfield, and that's nearby as well.
I like it.
But anyway, these chuggers, Sheffield's a nice city. I don't know Bristol hardly at all.
Really?
I've only ever been there once to meet old Alan Reese, on some.
It's a nice town, Bristol.
Is it divided literally by a river or a
waterway? The
or
Avon comes through, and you've got the big bridge there. The suspension bridge.
The Clifton suspension bridge.
Clifton is very, very nice because it's partly sort of up on the hill, and it's very Georgian terraces. Middle of Bristol's a little bit kind of industrialised, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose.
But it's also got a river running through the bottom. Very nice city.
I remember staying in a hotel there, which was up a hill from the main sort of square or something.
That was probably Clifton then.
Is that Clifton?
Yeah,
I don't know. It might have been. Yeah, I think it was called the Swallow, the hotel.
Well, when I was at university in Bath, we used to print our newspaper in Bristol, so I used to have to drive over there in the student union van every week to take the stuff over there.
But this was before you decided that you were too idle to finish your course at university and left.
That was when I decided. No, it was when I decided that I knew that I wanted to be a journalist, and there wasn't really any point in me staying at university.
Went off to get a job on the Baker magazine.
I went off to go and become a journalist.
Yeah, but they didn't give you a job on the Baker magazine.
The Baker?
Yeah.
No, the Baker wasn't one of the ones I applied to.
Wasn't it?
No, it was the Shoe and Leather News, actually.
Shoe and Leather News, yeah. I knew it was something like that. Anyway, these chuggers, right, I think they're intimidating on the streets.
Yeah.
And
isn't there supposed to be a law against it now?
Well, I think they are going to introduce laws. This is the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that now what happens is there's no cooling off period with these chuggers because, like normally if you sign a deal and it's done over the internet or something like that, you get cooling off period and you can be identified and they can identify you. You see what I mean?
Right.
But these chuggers get to sign something on the street and all of a sudden you're done for life.
Well, the answer is don't sign anything on the street. Just don't sign anything. Tell them to get lost.
You say that.
Here's one from...
That's not easy.
Here's one from Matthew who's tweeted at IROMG. My wife has just come home from work and was just about to watch Broadchurch and overheard my radio and is now going nuts.
Yeah.
Calling Porky all kinds of things.
Well, I did. He's a bad husband. He should have said, put your earplugs in, love. Porky's just about to reveal the end of Broadchurch. Getting back to the chuggers, a town called Middlewich, which is in Cheshire, is banning them from their streets because because Middlewich, of course, being sort of Cheshire and all that, got an ageing population, right?
Why did you say being Cheshire it's got an ageing population?
Cheshire is well known as a genteel county.
Well, it's full of footballers now, isn't it?
Well, it's full of footballers in one part.
That must bring the average down, doesn't it?
On the edge of Manchester. Yeah, but a lot
Cheadle.
Well, Holmes Chapel, Cheadle, round there, Wimslow, round there. But no, in the greater part of the Cheshire Plain, which was the county most badly affected by the foot and mouth outbreak in the 60s, which nearly wiped out the cattle population of this country, right?
We could have had camels instead, I suppose.
No, we couldn't have camels. It was called Plague on the Cheshire Plain.
Really?
And a lot of farms closed down. Did
you live through that then? Must have been traumatic for you.
Used to drive to school and see huge pyres of cattle being burnt in the fields.
Blimey.
Yeah.
No wonder you're so traumatised.
Well, it is a traumatic thing.
Traumatic?
Yeah, traumatic. And that, of course, was in the 60s when I was only a kid. Brain hadn't fully developed. My emotional infrastructure was as fragile, to say the least, and could very well have affected my attitude to the rest of my life.
Now, you do know that there is a quiz coming tomorrow on the show.
A quiz, yeah.
And you do know what the subject you asked for, don't you?
Chester.
The city of Chester.
Yeah, city of Chester. Yeah. That's fine by me.
So it's still being compiled as we speak, but it should be ready. I'm predicting another 3 out of 10.
No, I'm predicting an 8+ on this one.
Really?
8+, yeah. I know. What I don't know about Chester, mate, you couldn't write down on the back of a postage stamp because, remember, I lived there, I was brought up there, I was a newspaper reporter there, I was a student of the history of the place.
Right.
I mixed with a lot of people who were top knobs in Chester for a long time. Yes.
Well,
so I think I'll be in very good shape there. In fact, I think you're a bit of a mug to have accepted my my subject.
Well, I'm nothing if not fair, and I don't wish to be accused of sort of.
No, you're not fair. You're a cheat.
No, I'm not.
I'm not going to say it because
I ask you questions and they either have a right or a wrong answer.
I don't really want to say it because I get accused of overusing the word, but you are a gerrymanderer when it comes to the quiz. That's what you'll always be.
Really?
I'm going to out-gerrymander you tomorrow, pal.
Well, I hope you do a bit more research than you did last week.
I did plenty of research last week.
And you didn't get anything.
Just that you swapped all the questions around again as usual.
Absolutely shocking. There will be, of course, a podcast coming out in a few hours' time, of course. Here's another one from, let's see, where are we? Kevin. It says, is Sheffield the new Coventry?
Well, Coventry got bombed during the Second World War, didn't it?
Well, I don't know what you mean by that.
In fact, the cathedral there, the remains of it, is still there.
I've just been told maybe it means getting sent to Coventry. I see
what you mean, sent to Sheffield, sent to Coventry. Yeah, could be.
And here's Michael who says on the subject of Broadchurch, here in Canada, I think we are 2 weeks behind.
Are you?
So you've upset Canada, America,
I haven't upset anybody.
Australia, Norway,
Do you know what?
Scandinavia, Matthew's wife.
I totally reject those.
And Shiraz, here's another better one. Shiraz has said this in. Sheffield United won the league in 1898 and the FA Cup in 1899, 1902, 1915 and 1925.
Yeah.
You said they never won it.
Well, they haven't won anything in anybody's lifetime. You're still alive now, have they? That's
the main
point.
Same as saying they've never won anything.
Of course it is.
Sheffield
Wednesday, for 100 years.
Sheffield Wednesday ads have won 4 league titles, 3 FA Cups and 1 League Cup.
I went to the League Cup final. They won. They were. No.
You said they'd won anything.
Well, I forgot about it. They were managed by Ron Atkinson. It was at Wembley, and they beat Manchester United to my. Oh no, hang on, that could have been Aston Villa. No, I think it was Sheffield Wednesday. I think I did see Sheffield Wednesday.
You might wish to retract that then.
I did see Sheffield Wednesday win the League Cup.
Would you like to take it back?
And they were being managed by Ron Atkinson. Well, don't worry about the time. Well, time is immaterial when you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, I know that's true, but unfortunately that's the end of your enjoyment. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mikes at the Two Mikes on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mikes TV. The
idea of showing somebody your backside can be seen as a terrible insult. You know, show me your... You know what I mean?
Really?
Well, you know, that famous expression, like,
no.
you know,
have to say it.
You know the world's oldest joke, you know, a bloke walks up to somebody else with a cigarette and says, "Oh, hello, mate, you got a match?" And he says,
right.
my face, your Harris. You know, I mean, that's the oldest joke in the world, you know. You ever seen a woman on a beach with a machine gun?
No.